Welcome to Thinkin Bros. My name is Chris.
And I'm Alex.
We're your favorite corner store philosophers trying to figure out life one conundrum at a time. And today we're going to be talking about authenticity. Prior to authenticity or a discussion of societal pressure is quite convenient to answer a lot of the questions. But let me first model authenticity as the puzzle metaphor. So in my quest for happiness, I'd say I have a metaphor that I apply every time. So all the uncontrollable things in your life are the puzzle pieces that come as predetermined. So let's say, imagine them stuck to the ground. And, well, if you're building the puzzle on the ground. And every other piece you build around that is kind of part of your happiness, your routine, as Camus would say, right? Find your routine and find meaning in it. And again, I know you disagree with the constancy of it, but I'm sure you can agree that with time, the explorative nature of humans gets tired down. And in a way, a successful adult, or maybe even a happy one, or one with purpose, is one who is more constant in his life than a 20-year-old would be, let's say.
Oh, I see. You're saying I wouldn't be a fan of, I'm not a fan of your puzzles pieces stuck to the ground? But what did you say?
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, if the goal of life is happiness and the puzzle pieces are there, for me, a puzzle piece is, you need to keep your body in shape. One of those puzzle pieces will be, let's say, soccer, right? You would say, well, no, my puzzle piece is more general and it's actually sports. And when I get tired of soccer once every 6 months, I'm going to go play volleyball. But for this conversation, it doesn't matter. You see what I'm saying?
I mean, I guess I don't see your problem with swapping soccer for sports.
Because the more complete your puzzle is, the less you need to search for other pieces. Essentially, look, the ultimate goal of every human would be, in my opinion, to complete their puzzle. And one of the other things that you have to balance it with, as in my metaphor, it gets complex, but you have to maintain the pieces. So the color fades in a way, and you have to paint them over constantly, right? If you don't take care of a relationship, for example, the colors will fade if you give too much priority to, let's say, going and searching for a career, right? Oh, where's my career puzzle piece? Where is it? You forgot about your relationship puzzle piece that was already in your puzzle, and the color has faded, and now you need to replace it or work really hard to color it over. And there's a certain element of constancy in that.
Okay, well, I once again, I don't see the problem with my piece being not a specific sport, but sports in general, and me being able to paint that over with any team sport.
I'd say
we're
just,
using this concrete example because that's, like, we've had a discussion before about it, and
yeah.
I mean, I don't see your problem. It's not inconsistent with your theory of life having pieces.
It's inconsistent with the theory as a whole and what it tries to do, but not for the purpose of authenticity. And the thing is, it's just the more specific your puzzle piece is, the more it fits with the puzzle pieces around it. And if you go with general, like, sports, it's just not as beautiful as exploring yourself to the full potential and being excellent in one sport. That's my whole argument. In any case, we can for sure leave that for maybe life purpose too. But the thing is, for authenticity, essentially it's just how many of those puzzle pieces are yours, right? I'm sure you'll appreciate this metaphor. Well, this part of the metaphor.
But wait, what did you say? The puzzle pieces stuck to the ground are the ones you're born with?
Yeah, essentially the situation you are put in, and this is exactly where I'm going with this. The number of pieces that are stuck to the ground, there aren't many of them, but people perceive there to be many of them, right? You think you're attached to your family inevitably, and no matter how much you hate them, you're attached to them. Okay, go look at our episode on family. You think your body is extremely limited because perhaps it would take 4 years to make the exact change you think you desire, right? But you blame it on your genetics, blah, blah, blah. So all in all, your body, I guess, would be, well, your body and your past are the only puzzle pieces that are kind of just there. Now, I'm against plastic surgery, but again, even the body puzzle piece is somehow modifiable. But the fact remains that the essential of it is there. If you're born and programmed to be 5'9", you're probably going to be 5'9". That's all I'm saying, okay? So the actual pieces that are stuck to the ground are the core of your body, and your past. Now, your past only affects you in the physiological sense that it has affected you, so it comes back to the body. And then for the rest, it's all overcomable. So now we come back to the only piece that's stuck to the ground is really the body. What do you think about that?
Does the body include the brain?
Yeah.
Okay. Sure. Well, that comes with a bunch of psychological stuff, but yeah.
Which is highly malleable.
Which is not highly malleable.
Well, it's not easily malleable, but it's highly malleable. You could go from being a 15th percentile introvert to a 95th percentile extrovert, I would say.
I don't know. I would have to look into the research to make statements.
Yeah, well, no one's going to make people go through that excruciating effect, but as you agree with David Goggins' sayings and epigenetics, discipline is the only thing that can change your DNA. The thing about that, which everyone can appreciate, well, everyone who knows the limits of human potential, is that you can go from being the person that is the most phobic of snakes to a snake lover in like 2 years. That is a possibility. It's just the stress through which you have to go to achieve that effect. Well, of course, that works because I chose a phobia, which is by definition an irrational fear, and you would, I guess, have to handle snakes that aren't actually of danger to you, but whatever. Maybe a highly specific example in that sense, but that change is possible. Again, maybe if you want to debate the exactitude of my statement, we can do that, but what I would say is pay attention to what it means. Do you not agree that a lot of things that people think to be unchangeable are certainly changeable?
Yeah, I think the general statement is right, that what is mostly construed as set in stone and unchangeable is just that people have responsibilities and habits that they're stuck into, and a lot of other stuff to do, and so they don't have the time. But if we lived in a behaviorist paradise where you can spend all your time dedicating all your time to doing one thing and relearning some specific thing, it would be, well, first of all, we don't really know, but I can imagine, at least people getting a lot better. My problem with part of what my problem is with your statement is that I agree that, let's say, someone that's afraid of snakes can, I honestly don't know if they can become snake lovers. They can, reduce their physiological response of fear to snakes and become accustomed to it and be okay with it. But if we take it to say sports, and someone that's naturally gifted and has coordination in whatever, badminton, which takes a lot of coordination, you have to know exactly where to put the racket, and some people have an intuitive sense of that, pick it up quickly, and then by practice become, let's say, the best in the world. And then you take someone that's 20, okay, fully developed, has never played badminton, and on top of that is bad at badminton. He doesn't have coordination and is not good at racket sports. The fact is that he can't become the best in the world, even if he practices a lot.
Yeah, but the thing is, you can't become the best in the world. Objectively, right? Statistically, it's highly improbable that even if you started at 3 years old, it was in your genetics that you are that individual who will be the best in the world. What I'm saying is, yes, I understand that the critical period of malleability in your brain in childhood is something, and as I said, it's part of the body as a puzzle piece, but I think reaching your true potential should always be the goal above reaching some absolute goals, right? Some global goals. It's never about global goals. It's about the snake example differs critically from your example is because you're comparing him to other people, right? In my snake example is just, okay, it was bad in the sense that I said a snake lover, and you can't really learn to love something, but he can certainly go from being on the 95th percentile of phobia to being zero phobic at some point in his life, because it's just a matter of comparison to oneself. I'm not saying he can be the person, the absolute most snake-loving person on the planet Earth. And that's what authenticity comes back to is, well, yeah, not every possibility in the pool of human possibilities will be available to you in the puzzle pieces, but there are certain puzzle pieces that are meant for you, and they are the best fitting in your puzzle, and you kind of have to just pick from the pool of global possibilities and see what fits in your puzzle. That's how the metaphor works.
I mean, yeah, sure.
So
Okay.
my point is, I guess the most global point is a lot of, I think the mere possibility of, let's say, being an uncoordinated 20-year-old that doesn't play badminton, and by 30, the fact that you could, if you want to compare to others, become in the 95th percentile of badminton players in the world by the age of 30, that's kind of realistic, whatever. And realistically, for your story arc, that will be the best thing you could have done with being a 20-year-old that hasn't played badminton, correct?
What do you mean? In the realm of all possibilities ever?
In the realm of all possibilities of you, I'd say.
Or you could play another sport. I don't know what you mean.
All I'm saying is, if you were to chase authenticity, it would be for goals that are relative to what you could have not accomplished.
If you were to chase authenticity, it would be. I don't see the link between authenticity and chasing badminton mastery.
Fair enough. Let's get back on track. It's about the puzzle pieces that you put down, because there are some people that will put down puzzle pieces in your life for you, and you will see them as glued to the ground because you don't remember putting them there. Okay, if we want to take the metaphor further.
Okay.
And I think there are a lot of things. And you might object to the fact that, look, we're very limited in our society, blah, blah, blah. But the reality is, it is not beyond comprehension that a Westerner could sell all their belongings here, okay, at the moment, assuming you don't have debt or something, buy a ticket to a quiet village in Greece.
Just sell your debt.
Sell your debt to the highest bidder. Buy a ticket to anywhere in Greece, not anywhere in Greece, but a quiet village in Greece, and with a couple $1,000s, I don't know, get housing for a few months, and in those few months, develop something there, or find a job there. A local merchant needs help. It's just not, it's not impossible. And the mere possibility of that indicates that we put limitations on ourselves, right? You know, when I discuss these things, I always see as the archetype, the stressed, overworked 30-year-old, right, in my head. And a lot of the problems that in my head I'm trying to fix are those. And I guess it's kind of anticipatory to what I could be, realistically. And so, for that reason, I'd say my goal with this is, you know, those things that are the little things that bother you every single day, right? My boss is like this, some of my coworkers are like this, my house is like that, blah, blah, blah. I'm stressed all the time. I have, for example, right now, I have neck pain that is chronic and bothers me every day. And I see that as, you know, I have a very human instinct of wanting to blame the world, right? Oh, look at my bone structure. It made me have, I don't know, have a bad posture and now have neck pain. But the fact that it is a stressor in my life, and again, it's so natural because one of the only glued pieces is my body. So I would like to think that that is the case. But the reality of it is, if I spent every day 15 minutes just reinforcing my back muscles and decompressing my traps, I would get rid of that pain. And it's like and I think that's how people describe anxiety, right? The knowledge that you can change something, but kind of the lingering, your weakness in that regard is kind of lingering behind, like in the back of your head.
Weakness of will to fix it.
Exactly. And that's what it is, right? It's like, oh, the pain in my neck is there. And then add to that the fact that I know that I could change it. How bad is that? And I see that as an unmoving puzzle piece. But the reality is, if I reframe my day, I can change it.
What your point is, as it relates to authenticity, is that, well, first of all, you're trying to define authenticity as deciding the maximal amount of puzzle pieces, which you argue is sort of all of them, apart from a bit your body. And there's no excuse to not be authentic.
Yeah, because I guess specifically because you have to be aware that every puzzle piece that is there, you put there, right? If you think your authentic calling is to be the best in the NBA and you're 5'6", okay, you can object to what I said. But if you are stressed and unhappy, you are the person who chose your job. And I understand the immediate perceived risks / difficulties with quitting your job, but the mere fact that it is an option should be the thing that is lingering behind your mind and stressing you, right? The anxiety of, I chose this, correct?
Right.
So I guess I would say authenticity is much easier than people think. And that is because of an optimistic view I have about humans, believe it or not.
Yeah, you have very few of those. Well, yeah, just the caveat I would add is that we're looking at this through a frame of, Westerners who live a good life and have resources available to do this. Although also, you're saying hypothetically, if we had all the time and all the resources we needed, so it kind of goes into your metaphor, right? Like, it is a possibility if you had the resources and the time. But there are things that would stop people from being, authentic, being in authoritarian regimes, or like having not enough resources to do what you want to do.
I'd agree with the second one. Maybe the authoritarian regime is a pretty good point about how you either live under that or you die. But again, it's like not the most insightful thing to say about that kind of regime. But what if I'm unhappy about all the laws in all of the world? What if I have strong political opinions and no country reflects how I think life should be lived? Well, I guess that would be a finding of a second glued puzzle piece. And in that sense, it limits you in a way, but it certainly doesn't define your puzzle. You will always have to kind of play into the system. And the people who, quote unquote, play outside of the rules of the system don't really exist. You would just perceive them that way, right? The larger system is always operated within
the larger system.
The larger system of life. It's not just right. The people who play outside the system, who I don't know, at 18 years old found a company, are seen as playing outside of the system of finish high school and go to university, but they're not. The system is life.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, again, it's not the greatest representation of what an authoritarian regime limits you to, but look, if in China there are cameras at every street corner and you're unhappy with that, you can leave. If in North Korea that is the case, you can't leave. But there are also some things that are universal about this world that are implemented in this world and I don't like, and I can't leave this world. So in a way, that's my second puzzle piece, right? My environment.
Just life, the laws of physics.
Yeah, sure, the laws of physics. If my authentic calling is to fly, then that's going to be a tough life for me. So, okay, I guess we've discovered other frames.
The only thing I would say is just that, what if none of the laws of any society fit me? I think universally, just generally, people want, a certain amount of personal liberty and the recognition of the value of an individual. And there are some countries that fit with that. I don't know if you can say that, okay, anyway. You got my point, so yeah.
Maybe you don't have to see it as a glued puzzle piece. Maybe you can see it as the pool of puzzle pieces, right? If you think that your true calling, and you're from North Korea, all the fans listening from there, hi, is something outside of North Korea because the constraints don't allow you to live authentically, and you look in the pool of puzzle pieces, unfortunately, any puzzle piece that is outside of North Korea doesn't really exist at this point, right? So I guess that's the reality of things. But again, what my point is about the, I could sell everything I own, and if people want freedom from stress, I don't know, finding inner peace or something deep like that Westerners cling to and read Eastern philosophy for, then it is a possibility that for you to sell everything and go onto the mountains of Wudon and meditate all day, right? I mean, I'm sure you can find it. Kind of just a village that the cost of life would make it possible for you to go live there right now. And You would have to abandon all material possessions and, I don't know, or maybe even if it took you 5 years to buy some trailer and start living in a trailer, but, I don't know, travel through the mountains and eat berries that you find, that is a possibility. And so when you say that, it is impossible for me to find peace in the current environment that I'm in. Well, it isn't impossible. It's just not your priority, and that's what you have to see it as. Or I don't have time to do exercise, or exercise my body. Though I mean, I guess in my head it should be a puzzle piece for everyone. Well, no, it's just on the order of priorities, your health is lower than every other thing you've already put into your 24 hours.
Yeah, but once again, like, this probably applies to everyone that would be listening to this podcast, but there are people that don't have the time because they work literally all day. I'm not talking about people in North America, but in countries that are very poor, some people are in very dire situations.
Yeah, certainly, but I don't think it really has anything to do with authenticity, because again, it just that limits the pool of pieces that they can draw from. And it's the hedonic treadmill, right? Wasn't there a book about people in the camps in World War II being happy, finding happiness or something?
Are you talking about just man's search for meaning?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not about being happy. It's about finding meaning. But okay.
Yeah. In any case, look, to a certain extent, the pool of puzzle pieces is limited, but you also must just evaluate the puzzle pieces that are truly available to you and understand that the search for the puzzle pieces will always be more scary because that place is missing, right? If you hate your job and you quit it, the missing place of your job will be very stressful, and it will be like a free fall before you can really cling to that puzzle piece and find another one. But that stress can also motivate you to find it. Just what I'm trying to say is usually the presence of the puzzle piece feels more secure to us, and no matter how ugly it is or discolored, its mere presence sometimes just makes things worse. But we can't abandon it because the missing space is more scary.
Yeah, well, we can.
Yeah,
what you're saying is we can.
Yeah, of course we can. We feel like we can't, but like, okay, here's a good example that would certainly apply to absolutely everyone, and I'm sure this infuriates you because with the job thing, of course, you found the limitations, and also if you maybe see people who already have a family and kids and they're struggling to make money to feed the kids, then I would say the puzzle piece that you certainly don't want to take away from that puzzle is the kid. And if the only puzzle piece that fits around it is working 16 hours a day, then you should. And that's just how life is. But here's an example that will certainly infuriate you. People who are in relationships with people they don't love.
Why would that infuriate me?
Just the mere
when
they complain about it and when they think it is unchangeable.
Okay, I thought you were saying you were going to give an example that I wouldn't agree with you on.
No.
Where you're saying that we would both
I know you thought that, but
collectively be infuriated. Yeah.
The reality is, look, okay, there are two cases. If you don't have kids or if you have kids. If you don't have kids, there's absolutely no excuse to stay in relationships with people you don't love. But people are very insecure. People are very scared of loneliness. And what happens is that the prospect of you being in the free fall of no relationship is less attractive and more scary than clinging onto a person that you once loved you or you once loved. But that isn't the case anymore. And hey, just stated like that, absolutely no one can offer a counter argument. But again, reason does not really rule the world of love, but that's okay. The other thing is about kids. And often, here's the factor that I would like to discuss. Often people think that they are staying together because of the kids, right? So the kids are priority number one. But the problem with that is we know how shapeable kids are and how much their childhood matters in their development, and how, again, one of the unmodifiable and the only, in my opinion, unmodifiable puzzle pieces is your body and your neurological complexion when you become an adult. And the way in which parents fighting in your childhood can affect that is absolutely scary as a prospect. So I think that if you see it as noble to stay with someone because of the kids, but that you're short-sighted about the fact that that has a worse effect on the kids for the long term.
Then what? Then divorce?
Yeah.
You think divorce would be better?
Well, that's what I'm saying, is in some cases. And if you see the categories that I'm creating, it's those who have kids, those who don't have kids. In those who have kids, let's just arbitrarily give me this, half would benefit from a divorce because they absolutely fight too much and cannot control their anger, and half would not. Well, it's becoming apparent that a majority of people who would dare to say to my face, I'm unhappy in my relationship, but I can't end it, would be wrong in saying that.
What? Because the people who don't have kids should just leave, and then there's another 50% of the people who have kids. Well, you won't have parents coming up to you and saying I'm unhappy in my relationship, but
well, we'll see. I mean, I get recognized here and there, but usually by friends or people that I call. But do you not think that just conceptually, of course, we cannot work with statistics, that's a reality of the show, but conceptually, do you not think that a week with mom and a week with dad is better than mom and dad like losing hair over fighting and starting every morning with an argument?
I agree with you that there's degrees to it, and without looking at research again, my instinct would be that, yeah, obviously there's an extreme where the environment is just toxic. There's no role models. Just both people are worse people when they're together, and it creates a horrible environment for the kids, and it would be better.
Worse for the kids specifically, right?
Yeah.
And in that sense, yeah.
Yeah, and like divorce is the better option. I don't know. It depends to which degree you can internalize this and for how long, right? It's like how long can you internalize your, I don't know, hate for your partner or your lack of love for your partner. And I also think that sometimes your love for the kids is just so immense that you can stomach it. And maybe sometimes the problems aren't that bad in the relationship and you can stomach it. But yeah, definitely sometimes I think divorce is the better option.
Right. So let's get concretely back to the authenticity. What I've discovered with the study of Zen Buddhism is that the disciples of Zen see you at different points in time as completely disconnected, right? You see it as me yesterday, me right now, me tomorrow. They get rid of the arrows, and the sequences in time are simply, well, time doesn't really exist in that sense. So I think there's something very deep to learn about that, because it's about asking yourself the questions that determined your relationship in that case specifically, but I think this ties back to authenticity every day, right? It's not about, oh, I remember falling in love with this person. It's, if I met this person today, would I fall in love with her / him? One of the factors of authenticity is living in the present, right? What feels right now. And of course, it's inevitable for people to plan actions, but that's just how the world works. But at the very least, the past shouldn't have an emotional hold on you. Would you not agree? Maybe you can have a rational hold in the sense that, well, my past actions are pretty good lessons of what happens.
I mean, at the same time, you certainly don't mean that, you know, a day or a couple of days that are the worst points of a relationship, in that time they should break up and then get back together when they feel like, oh, I fall in love with this person.
Well, I also don't think that a fight destroys love.
I didn't say fight. I said the worst point in a relationship. I don't know, whatever it is.
Well, I think that's highly variable. I like to categorize things, but it depends on what the worst point in a relationship is. If you feel deeply lonely and you feel like you don't know the person anymore, blah blah blah, all of those, words people use, well, that's it. You don't know the person anymore. Well, what it means in my definition, of course, is you've discovered who they truly are, and you once fell in love with your vision of them, but that's not the case anymore.
Well, I feel like you're imagining people as so like too concrete in their viewpoints of like, oh, I see this person this way, and that's what it does. I feel like some monumental events change, or at least threaten to change your view of that person, and then you're confused for a bit, and then you come out on one side or the other.
I think it just depends on the nature of the disagreement. It depends, because look, even you and I, sometimes we have days when we piss each other off and we don't like really want to like talk, I guess, or whatever. But the nature of the disagreement is understood, and in that sense, we would choose to be friends again, because the nature of our disagreement, in that context, you are still someone I want to associate with. Do you get it?
Because, yeah, no, I get it, but I'm just trying to think of an example to concretize what I mean. Like, let's say, I mean, for me, it's a complete deal breaker not wanting to have kids. But let's say you're like, someone falls in love with someone, and they're, you know, sort of on the fence, leaning towards I want to have kids. And then after 2 months, they discover the other person, oh, I don't want to have kids. I hate kids, whatever. And then it's a possibility for them to come out on the other side and say, okay, I love this person too much. The relationship we've developed, the personality, our chemistry or whatever. I want to spend the rest of my life with them, but I won't have kids. And it's a debate, but that's winning. Or on the other side of like, oh, I gotta leave.
Yeah. Well, you know what I would answer. You can probably predict it. It's very simple. The invariable thing is that you can't have kids, but what soulmates are, just statistically, are just 1 in a million, right? And the reality is, if you think you love someone very deeply and they're your soulmate, you'll find another one. But with the other one, there's a probability you can have kids. So just abandon that person. So I think it gets back to something else, right? Which is, do we really know ourselves? Right? That's the thing, right? It's, oh, at this point in the relationship, I think I want kids, blah, blah, blah. And what my process would be with my partner doesn't want to have kids is, of course, would be, okay, what is your thought process arriving to that? Right? Because it matters. The reason matters.
Oh, questioning the other person.
Questioning the other person? No. Well, my larger point to which I want to shift soon is questioning yourself, of course. But what I think, well, a lot of people that aren't us perhaps don't do is, I feel I don't want to have kids. If someone asks me, I can't explain it, right? And this is where you discover the underlying, intuitions you have and where you can correct them. For people like us, I mean, I'd say we have a higher level of self-discovery simply because we question our own intuitions. Some people don't do that. And of course, I would get to the bottom of it. But if she doesn't want to have kids because the sight of kids repulses her, well, that's it, right? Because I am an introspective person. I know that during the next 20 years of my life, it is likely that I want to have kids. But she says, when she sees a kid, they repulse her. Well, that's not something that's going to change. That's an intuition that can be thought through. So it's over.
It can change. Gradual exposure to children until she becomes a child lover.
Right. Curing through exposure.
Sure, yeah.
So, yeah, my larger point is, guess what? If that is specifically the situation in which you are in, then you're just scared of being lonely. You will find another soulmate, but the kid thing is going to be a constant with the other person, or you get to the bottom of it, whatever. Anyway, things are simpler than they are. In relationships, communication is always the barrier people go through, right? You definitely know that through being the friend group psychologist. Communication, number one problem, number one fix.
Yeah.
So as long as, if there were a direct line of communication between the two people's brains, a lot of issues would go away, and a lot of
dude, first date, direct communication, you just figure it out and then you can leave or stay. That'd be sick.
Yeah, through Zen Buddhism, you can open the magnetic field of your heart. Anyway,
everything is everything.
I'm not gonna devolve into everything is everything, but so okay, here's the next point. And Alan Watts puts this very beautifully, and it's, every time you want to make a decision, and this is kind of more of the aspect of, how do I truly know what I am? Because authenticity is doing what you are, right? Becoming who you are, in a way. Would you agree? Just as a simple definition.
Okay. Yeah, don't you also like define that actively?
Yeah, and well, it's the opposite. It's the opposite of you're not being you, right? The phrase "you're not being you." Just become who you are. Okay. How do you discover who you are? Well, for me, it's specifically working through intuitions with reason. Because let's say I hate accents. When I hear accents, I don't want to hear that person. But the reason for that is what I found out is that I've traveled a lot, and every time I traveled, I felt as an outsider. So I wanted to perfect my language of everywhere I was. And every time I didn't speak like someone, or someone pointed out that I had an accent, it really, really bothered me because I was like, oh no, they detected that I'm an outsider. And in that way, well, obviously, maybe that's a theory you can put to the test in another episode, but the things you hate are the things you're afraid of being.
He's Freud quoting. Let's go.
No, I'm me quoting. Okay. I hate Freud and Jung, whatever. So I've never read them. It's just as a
I mean, you
principle.
just said something Freud invented, basically, but yeah.
Sure. Every word was invented by someone else, and I'm using it. So, okay, the thought experiment of Alan Watts is pretty beautiful. It's whenever you can't make a decision, you flip a coin, but it's not because the coin will decide the outcome. It's because while the coin is in the air, you will know where you want it to land. And I truly think that's beautiful, because a lot of the time we lie to ourselves. We have these hidden intuitions of perhaps societal pressure, I would say, because one of the most striking memories that I have about authenticity is, my method about making decisions is make a pros and cons list. And I was helping this girl decide which university to go to, and maybe I've told this story. And one of the sides I noticed of going to one of the universities was full of, my friends are going to be there. My mom wants me to go there. My sister went there. And I was like, okay, well, what if you take out everything that mentions others and you tell yourself, okay, the only points that will matter here are the points that contain the word me, right? I want to pursue this, because the programs were a little bit different, but the university that her mom didn't want her to go to had a better suited program for her dreams or whatever. Anyway, so she chose the university where her mom went, and I don't know, maybe she's doing well. But the point stays. I think in that thought experiment / situation, authenticity would be the removal of others from the equation. And I think we've talked about this in another episode, but again, it's the Black Mirror episode where you become kind of a ghost, right? You become unseeable, but you still live on Earth and kind of interact and depend on other people. But you come in this shadow dimension where you don't really exist. In some way, your actions have a consequence on the world. So imagine an apocalypse and no one exists, but they really do. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. I don't know. And okay, what decision do you make when, sorry. Okay, here's a better metaphor. What if no one, whatever judging means in your head, no one judged you for what you would do? The practical consequences would be the same, but no one judged you. Would that be a more accurate thing about authenticity?
Than apocalypse. You know what I was gonna say. If there's an apocalypse, there's no point to most careers,
Again, yeah, but that's missing the point of the thought experiment, which is why it's fair to rephrase it. That's fair.
Yeah.
But also, just, stick with me. If I'm telling you the apocalypse, you know what it means. You know what it means.
Oh, really? Let's say I think I said exactly the same thing last time you talked about your friend example, is that my friends are going to be there is a point. My mom wants me to go there is not a point, but my friends are going to be there is certainly a point. Just in terms of social, yeah.
I think it depends on friends, because what she meant was in the last 2 years of high school or CEGEP in Canada, it was just kind of her co-workers, right? She was in the same classes as them. She She had fun talking to them in class, but it's nothing she couldn't regain in
I mean, I think
6 months. It wasn't her.
ultimately it's like sort of security. It's like, oh, I don't want to go through meeting people again.
Absolutely. And it was like, if one of the factors of, okay, I can go work in Siberia right now and pursue the life of dreams, but
Okay.
yeah, but like, you're here and you want to pursue a thing here, and I would like to keep in touch with you, then maybe that would be a factor, but even then FaceTime exists, right? But when you're talking about, say, you have friends found a year ago and you're telling yourself, you know what, I would be more secure if I can sit next to someone in class. Well, that's no argument at all.
Why is Siberia your dream job?
I don't know. I just thought about something far.
Okay.
So, okay, could we compose a few steps to become authentic? I guess, would know thyself be number one, and
Okay,
then forego societal pressure would be number two.
Know thyself and forgo societal pressure. Which sort of goes together, because I think if I probe you about know thyself, what does it mean is learn to distinguish between your influence versus others' influence, right? And then what do you mean exactly by know thyself?
I guess what I mean is, it feels like every time you have to make a hard decision and you take time, right? Choosing university, blah, blah, blah. You plan it out. The moment you make the decision, or at the very least you're in it, right? The first time you take a step into the university, it doesn't seem like the big decision it was. Or it also feels right, or it doesn't feel right. Immediately after taking the decision, I feel like.
Well, for me, what that made me think of is, I don't know, just my personality. I'm not very neurotic. I don't have a lot of negative emotions. I also don't regret stuff. I don't often find myself, thinking of the past and how things could have gone. I'm just adapting the best I can to the situation I find myself in right now. And so, yeah, I know that sort of relates to what you were saying. But I think we're gonna get to this eventually. But just the tweak I would make to your thing, and what I disagree with you about, is how static you seem to see it. I think you would disagree with me if I say, like, know thyself for a creative person, or let's say for me, who played soccer before and now I can substitute it with other sports. Or let's say I try musical instruments where I wasn't a musical person in my youth. That's part of being authentic, is just the exploration. And I feel like your puzzle pieces, like, ultimately, I feel like you seem to think there's an end goal, having puzzle pieces set, and this is how your life should be, and you have a routine. And I would include in that routine exploration and trying other things as being authentic. I want to do these things.
Right. It's just, I guess it's more of a philosophical principle, right? The end goal of my puzzle, it's one of those that, what is virtue? Well, the people who study it the closest will be the closest to it, but they'll never reach it. Or it's the same thing, I guess, with religion, right? Who is the most holy, or who's the most deserving of heaven? I guess the most advanced people in that matter are also the humblest, and the ones who think they are doing the most wrong. So it's the same thing here, in the sense that, well, look, I'm saying the end goal is the full puzzle, and what you're going to be doing during that full puzzle phase is repainting every piece of the puzzle that is fading. So it's still dynamic in that sense. But I think humans can certainly explore, and I think one of the things I disregarded in my puzzle metaphor that I can certainly add, and maybe it could be the brightness of the pieces, the brightness varying as a function of how much you painted over, and it would be the excellence in everything. It's how excellent you are at everything, right? Because I feel like if your puzzle piece was soccer and you were very excellent and your piece was bright, and the moment you have that tendon problem, you have to replace it with volleyball. Well, at the very least, in the very beginning, it just won't feel right, right? You'll be clinging to the memories of the soccer and how good you are, how counterfactual thinking, how good you could have been, and you'll think about the previous puzzle piece until it's bright enough to kind of shift your attention towards the new one.
Sure, I think there's some feels like innate desire for a certain skill. It certainly doesn't feel good to suck at everything.
Yeah, I'd say, okay, look, if I can put it like this, okay, I think the perfect happy person, which again, as a philosophical concept, doesn't really exist, but if it were to exist, is the person with the full puzzle. You think that's not the case, right? And as part of your puzzle, it's too.
Not really. I just think that I don't even know. I don't know how that fits within the puzzle metaphor. I guess some pieces are just interchangeable. You like you have this hobby that you phase out of, and then you replace it with another piece, and pieces are replaceable.
Right. In that sense, if having children is part of your piece, then of your puzzle, then when they reach 18, the piece itself would modify.
It must, yeah.
Yeah, and you would, let's say they move out, and then suddenly you have, let's say, I don't know, 3 more hours in your day. Well, there's the piece becomes smaller, and it leaves place for other pieces. In that sense, it's dynamic because of the pieces that are constantly changing themselves. But I still think that I truly hope, this will be a specific statement, but let me start with the statement you'll actually agree with, and that I said at the beginning. At the very least, if you're 18, you can see life as, a few puzzle pieces being here and there. You're lost, you're probably unhappy because you haven't achieved anything, and everything feels like searching. And you're in that searching phase, you're taking from the pool, putting pieces down, nothing is fitting, you're changing, blah, blah, blah. At the very least, I hope that by 40, you'll have a lot more pieces set down.
Yeah.
And again, my ideal thing is, of course, pieces modify, but let's say you were immune to tendon damage and any injury. I still believe that soccer would be the path for you, and if in that thought experiment of you never getting injured, maybe the puzzle piece of one soccer session a week could realistically be part of all of your life, and it would make you happier than doing something you're less good at, you have less knowledge of. Of course, also in that same puzzle piece, it's always getting more colorful, right? You're always getting better. Well, until maybe you neurologically decline, but to a certain extent, to the extent of what is possible. So all I'm saying is, okay, we're talking about sports, but if you think about something more determinate, it's desirable to be set on a career by the time you're 40. And you wouldn't see it as the authentic path, or the path of someone happy, to always be exploring by a certain time in their life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And again, the mobility of the dynamic nature of the puzzle pieces themselves can fulfill the role that you kind of are talking about, right? If one of those pieces is the appreciation of art, right? And let's say, you're building that perfect week. I think we talked about this in the drug episode. The perfect week. And one of those hours of your perfect week is dedicated to seeing art. Well, the mere fact of exploring different art style within that art piece would be the dynamic nature. And it's the same thing with soccer, right? Okay, how can I change something for the better because I'm getting kind of bored? Well, let me learn a new skill. Let me change up my angle by becoming better at cardio and doing this and practicing this. And I feel like advancing yourself more in one puzzle piece is more fun than just trying on a new puzzle piece of the same type. Right? If my first time volleyball session is probably going to be less fun than my soccer session.
Yeah, and I think that's relative to people too. I think highly creative people would appreciate exploring a lot more. But when it comes to, soccer and let's say injury, let's say I injure myself and I can't play soccer anymore. I think that sort of has to do with that part of the pool being blocked off to me. You know, it's not a question of, oh, I continue with soccer and I'd be happier if I could continue soccer. I don't think you can see it that way. It's like it's not an option anymore. It's just not a possibility. And so replacing it with another piece and developing that piece, I think makes me as happy as I. Well, once again, I can't compare. You don't know what your life would be like if.
Again, I am very against counterfactual thinking, and in no way am I arguing for you would be happier if you could play soccer. If I understand it's been removed from your puzzle pieces, so either if you're chasing the most authentic self or the happiest self you can be, soccer isn't there anymore, right? That's a fact of the matter. So I definitely agree, but my overarching argument about the soccer thing was, look, if the injury had never happened, would you not say that, in the realm of, okay, I need a sports puzzle piece, advancing in the puzzle piece of soccer would be more fulfilling than just, exploring.
Oh, sure, I guess. Yeah, I mean, basically what you're saying then is seeking mastery and becoming a master of something is desirable and is good.
Yeah. If you have chosen the piece and it's there, you will always, I guess that this goes into happiness, but you will always be happier if the piece is brighter. So again, self-exploration, honesty with oneself, introspection is how you do the know thyself part. Avoiding societal pressure is, I guess, building emotional resilience, placing your priorities correctly, right? Which can only be achieved through knowing thyself. Okay, we can mention Nietzsche's Übermensch. I practice saying
Approved.
that with YouTube tutorials. Maybe you can read what it says.
The Übermensch represents...
No, sorry. Übermensch.
The
Übermensch
represents an individual who has transcended conventional morality, societal norms, and the influence of traditional religious values. Nietzsche believed that the
Übermensch
would create their own values and live authentically, free from the constraints of herd mentality and slave morality. The idea was controversial because it challenged prevailing moral and religious beliefs, suggesting that individuals should define their own values and ethics rather than relying on established norms.
Yeah, there's a beautiful story of a farmer in Nietzsche, and it's a person who, I might be getting the beginning wrong, but it's a disciple of monks that the monks were teaching him things, and he kind of just didn't like being ruled in that way. And then he just abandoned that, went to work for some farmer. And in the beginning, they didn't talk much, but they usually started arguing about things, and they were talking about deep philosophical topics. And slowly, they were developing their common knowledge and, debating things and doubting. And at some point, the apprentice decided that the farmer had a lot of wisdom and a lot of things to teach him because he was feeling like he was advancing his knowledge. And so with time, he decided to kind of become his apprentice and asked less and less questions and listened more and was less confrontational. And the farmer said, one day he realized this and he said, "You must leave now." And the student asked why. And the farmer said, "Well, the way I see the world is merely a percept, right? It's a way in which my mind interacts with what is real. Every opinion that I have, every vision that I have, every perception, every sight is my mind interacting with the world. In the beginning, we were challenging each other's perceptions, and we were debating, we were advancing our knowledge and modifying and shaping our view of the real world. But what it has turned to is that my mind has become a filter for the real world for you. And now you don't see the real world. You see what I see. And in that sense, you're not helping me advance, and you're not advancing yourself. And your vision is not authentic. And I do find that beautiful. I think it's very optimistic about humans, because, you know, who's a pessimist about human nature? Maybe Hobbes. Hobbes would say humans absolutely don't know what's good for them. They're stupid. They should be ruled by one person, and that's the only way they are not animals in nature. This is a very, optimistic view of human nature, that everyone, again, I don't disagree with the fact that everyone can develop their own morality, but the truth is most people are quite low in intelligence, and that's okay. It's not impossible. It's just the steps we would have to take them through would be extreme. But what is cool about this podcast is every listener isn't in that category. So not by nature, but by continuous listening. And this does speak volumes, I would say. Anyway, I love the Nietzsche story. I do think that it's very cool, because the only way everyone can advance and benefit from everyone else is by them arriving at their own morality. But the truth is, what that means in some people's minds is that, if everyone arrives at their own morality, there are going to be, some psychopaths that are, the morality of which is just to kill everyone. Well, whatever. I mean, maybe the morality of the other 99% could be to imprison those psychopaths, but what my point is that human nature is quite constant, and if everyone were introspective enough and didn't lie to themselves enough, and this is the point that I wanted to make at the beginning, the positive human outlook thing, everyone would come to the conclusion that some sense of morality and some sense of, I have wants and I have needs, but I know that a lot of them are hedonistic, and I know I'm going to have to sacrifice a lot of these to live in harmony and live in a society. And if everyone could arrive at that conclusion alone, it would certainly make things a lot easier, right? Rebelling against laws. That wouldn't happen. In the sense that everyone will come to the conclusion that that's the most optimal thing for them. But instead, we're kind of ruled in another way. We're ruled by...
I mean, how constant is human nature that everyone would arrive at the same conclusions?
I guess I would say, look at it like this, okay? If people are kind of herd mentality and stupid, Machiavelli said this. Machiavelli said that the things that matter in a leader are appearance and results. But number one is appearance before results. This is why in Hobbes' theory, the king always arrives...
Sovereign?
But whatever. The sovereign, the ruling person, always arrives with, beds of flowers in front of their feet to inspire fear. Because fear tells to the dumb person, okay, I'm not smart enough to determine my own sense of morality, but I fear this person too much to do something stupid and rebel against the law, so I'm just going to do it. But that's also how rebellion happens. In a utopia, in my utopia, the island that I'm going to become a multi-billionaire and build and invite people to live there?
That was a great short.
Yeah. In my utopia, every law comes with an explanation of why the law is there. And if that were the case, every law could be debated logically. I'm telling you, you must pay this percentage of tax. As a person, you don't really know what that means. You don't know. But if you were a statistician, philosopher, anthropologist, blah, 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 I could break down the percentages. Look, 0.1% of that is going towards children free education. 0.1% of that is going towards children parks. 0.3% of that is going towards, whatever organization regulates the food in the area or whatever, right? And you would see that list and you'd be like, okay, well, absolutely everything in this list is justified, and I would like to live under the ruling where this is the case. I'm good. But what, legal rebellion is, okay, some politicians in a dark room came to a certain conclusion that this is best for me. They don't know why. I don't know why, but I don't like it. So I'm going to rebel against this. So again, I think Nietzsche is way too idealistic about the Übermensch, but I do think that anyone in the search of authenticity and virtue could do this. But let's look at the way he frames it specifically. An individual who has transcended conventional morality. So now, transcending conventional morality can be not listening to what other people have said to you about what is good and what is bad, but taking your own path and arriving at the same conclusions. And in the current world, you would arrive at similar conclusions, but they would differ in some senses, as displayed by, I don't know, my thinking. Transcended societal norms. So again, societal norms, I guess my apocalypse example works for the simplistic idea of, okay, I have to decide between blue shirt and black shirt. What would I wear if absolutely no one was there to see me today, right? Just work with me on this. Probably the black one, right? But if people were there, I would love to appear as though I have a sense of style, and perhaps the blue matches my jeans and blah, blah, blah. No, right? The black one's more comfortable. I would wear it. Okay. And transcended the influence of traditional religious values. Well, that's the same thing as conventional morality.
I don't know what the specifics of your island are, How many people could you have on there so that you can explain all your reasoning to everyone?
Everyone above 120 IQ.
Everyone above 120 IQ would not agree with your reasoning.
Well, and then I would be open to debate, of course.
Okay, and then debate happens and you don't reach a solution because that's not how things really work. Some people just truly disagree and will keep on disagreeing.
Kick him out. But the thing is, no person above 120 IQ is a contrarian. What you're describing is a contrarian.
I'm not describing contrarian. I'm describing people with, at some level down the hierarchy of beliefs, you have some foundation that's different from that person. And or not even that, because then you would argue that someone is right and someone else is not right. But somewhere in your personality you don't match, and you don't think society should work in this way or that way. That's the left and the right politically. Some people, there's a correlation between personality patterns and your political orientation, and so that sort of defines how you lean in social policies. And that's the way people are. And the way democracy works is that there's not one rational solution that you come by. It's a continual debate of and forming of society every single day and with every single law.
Right, but maybe it's a little bit idealistic, the island, but I still think that a lot of people... Well, maybe, but also smart people would know more how to sacrifice. Certainly, right? Some people... Maybe there would be universal things that people are just like, okay, I cannot live with this. But some other things, it's like, okay, yes, I must pay my taxes because right now, let's say the elderly are benefiting from this. And, a percentage of my pay is going to people that I do not know above 60 years old. But that will happen to me in, 40 years. So that's a fact. It's just, look, let's say it like this. More people that I call dumb, or you could call under certain IQ, no, you wouldn't, but whatever, think they have a political orientation because some conclusions of the other side feel wrong. A lot of smart people, which I'm not correlating with IQ in any way, perhaps just people who have found philosophy and know what it is, are after the best thing for humanity. And I guess if you were to ask me who would be on my island, it would be people who know that sacrifice must be achieved, personal sacrifice must be achieved for the best of humanity. And as a ruler, I think I would be good because I'm ready to always seek the truth, right? Some people, you tell them, why are you against abortion? abortion is killing. You're killing babies. Wait, is that a thing? Yeah, killing babies feels wrong. Just anything. Feel. Right? It's always about the conclusion of this side feels wrong. This therefore is my side. But when you get to the bottom of it and the fundamentals of it, it's at the very least easier to see the other's perspective. Okay, look.
Well, I have like a million problems with your island, So what about dumb people? They exist, like people that are not in your, smart people category, and then you're overestimating
they'll be
your
filtrated out. Let's just say. Also, no anchovies.
genocide.
No, just selective non-hospitalization. Okay, well,
and then I think you're overestimating your rationality's capacity to reach, political peace, I guess.
Again, sorry, off topic. Could be a good topic. I do want to, just because we could talk about 2 hours, but look, authenticity. We can for sure come back to the island. I'm sure we will actually. Know thyself. Transcend societal pressure in the sense of knowing thyself, and I love the Coinflip example. The limitation.
It feels right that
100%.
Like you are leaning in one direction and you know what you should do, and once you flip the coin, it's like, oh, in the next second, the wrong choice could land.
And it's usually, oh my god, but my friends or family would think this. Well, realistically, your friends or family want the best for you, and they might have a conception of what is best for you in another way that you have, but your task will simply be to do what feels right and then display to them that was always the right choice for you through being happy and achieving happiness. And the only way you can do that is by a priori, not a good use of the word, but whatever, I'm just flexing, knowing yourself. Because that decision towards which you're leaning, if you know yourself, is truly the best one for you. And if it is so, your relatives / people you love will be pleased with that decision in time, even if it takes time. Fair?
Yeah.
Okay. It just feels complete. I don't know. The debates were, again, we have all these episodes.
Debates are off topic, aren't they?
Exactly. Debates are off topic. You don't want me to be in the leadership of an island. Nothing to do with authenticity. I'm saying 9.
Aw, 9, dude? Wait.
Just because the debates just weren't.
Yeah, I just don't know how much we said,
I mean, okay, it was a conceptual exploration episode. We like them.
Okay, I'm going to say 7 because otherwise you're going to put 9. So it's 8. I'm going to say 7.
No, I can put 8 if you say 8.
It's 7.
Last time we had a 1-point difference and I put your score.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, there's no promise that that's going to happen again, so 7.
I can put 8 if you say 8 and you can be authentic about
no,
this.
You can put 8, but are you going to put 8?
I'm going to put 8, as said in the podcast. Just say 8, because otherwise you're not authentic.
Okay, sure, 8.
Okay, but why? Because, as I said, the disagreement was about the puzzle, which is more about happiness and, completeness.
Well, it's a figured it out rating. It's not necessarily a disagree rating or something like that. And
okay, do you think there are factors we didn't cover, and could we go deeper on that next time, or what?
I mean, what did we say? We stated the possibility of change even when it becomes harder neurologically because you're not a child anymore, and you should always strive for that. And in a lot of situations, people can strive for that, and they don't, and they pretend something is fixed. And that's authenticity. No, it's pretty good. It's 8, but it's not like it's 9.
Yeah,
well, why didn't you put 10?
Well, yeah, it does not feel like a 10 because I think it's because there's something that is hiding from me. When I have a very good model of representation, I allow myself to say 10 because, well, if we've explored it and settled it.
I think all the 10s we agreed on 10. It just feels.
I feel like there was 1 or 2.
Stop,
but...
feel.
Yeah, feel. Okay. Yeah, again, I think it's about the model. Here, we came up with the model on the fly, and it's just know thyself and then something correlated with know thyself, which is whatever.
Right. Yeah.
It's fine. Okay. Thank you for listening to How to Become Übermensch. Now, if you want more information, go on thinkybros.com and please read my blog. And contact us at thinkybros@gmail.com, and we'll see you next week.
See ya.